Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. Yeah. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. Yes. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. I'm trying, I'm crying, I feel like I'm dying. I'm doing my best.
So welcome back to Being Human and Other Shit. My name is Melissa, and I have my beautiful co-host Staci.
Hello.
And today I am recording from the ancestral homelands of the Miwok people. I acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. And Staci's going to introduce our beautiful guest today.
So we are super excited to have Keyko with us. She is a friend of Adriana, who we recorded with previously. So thank you to Adriana for giving us that hookup. And she is going to talk about her polyamorous lifestyle. We've been waiting for this episode, by the way. I feel like the last 5 episodes have been just like the universe has aligned all these people for us. Well, the universe, Heather and Adriana have aligned all these people that were stoked. Yeah, mostly Heather and Adriana, but also the universe. So anyway, so we're going to get right into it. We never beat around the bush. Give us just your background, your upbringing, like where you grew up, siblings, etc.
Sure. So, Staci, Melissa, thank you again for having me be a part of the show. I'm excited to be here. So I'm currently residing in Maine, and we talked a little bit about that. I've been here for a 1.5 winter, moved here 2 Septembers ago, and I was living in Sacramento for about 15 years. I moved up there for college. And just set roots down and didn't leave until I moved to Maine. But I'm originally from San Diego, California. I'm a first generation Chicana. So my parents immigrated here from Mexico. And I was born in San Diego. I have 2 younger siblings. One of them is my sister, Karina. She and I are very, very close. She's only 4 years younger than me. And we didn't have a lot of closeness sort of growing up. It's been more recently as adults, so it's been really nice to sort of have that family. Family is very important to me. But unfortunately, I don't have a super close relationship with my own family of origin. My mother and my father, my baby sister aren't really in my life. And a lot of it has to do because of my identity as both a queer and polyamorous person. It's harder for some people, I think, to understand. They feel that everyone feels that some of these things are choices. And when you're choosing something that is against what your family believes, you're sort of being selfish and you're not understanding, which I think is a really common misconception. I don't believe that choosing yourself and choosing happiness is particularly selfish.
Oh, in no way.
I'm like, what else? What my background?
Is your family very religious?
What's really interesting is that they're not. I would say that they're culturally religious, just because the Catholic faith and Mexican culture are very interwoven in terms of what that culture looks like. But I am actually the most religious person in my family. I'm a practicing Catholic.
That's a twist that I did not think was coming. I'm loving that.
That was a quick twist.
I wish I had suspenseful music.
Dun dun dun.
I'll add that in later.
Post-production. So I'm a practicing Catholic. I'm actually observing Lent right now. And a lot of people so it's a common misconception that people have to give something up for Lent. The 3 pillars of Lent are almsgiving, fasting, and prayer. So if I give anything up, as I'm giving up being dehydrated, I'm drinking more water. I'm really
a good one. My friend was here last night. He's Catholic, and he was like, I gave up red meat. I'm like, I would give up social media or walking on the left side of the street, right?
And taking on. I'm trying to be more intentional, adding more prayer to my daily life and things like that. It's been a good, and no eating meat on Fridays. My partner said, if you want me to participate with you this year, that means you're going to really have to cook for me on Fridays. I'm like, oh my God, is it so hard for you to just not eat meat one day out of the week? They're like, yeah, no, it really is. So they've been so excited. They're like, what are we getting this Friday? Fish tacos. Got una diabla.
Yeah, that's a deal right there.
Boiled.
I love it.
But I think that it's more of the lifestyle. I think that a lot of people fear what they don't understand. And then I'm going to be so bold as to say that a lot of the times when I encounter discrimination against me for like my lifestyle choices, quote unquote, I feel like there's this weird jealousy almost. Like, you know, people are jealous that maybe they didn't have an opportunity to live the way that I've been able to live my life out loud. I'm very, very open. I don't hide any part of my identity, whether it be at work and daily life. I really believe in normalizing being queer and being polyamorous, because why not? I think it's important for folks to be able to like just have it be as normal as, you know, being monogamous or any other lifestyle or relationship choices.
Yeah.
And I literally will just, I don't like come out, I don't approach it weird. I'll just be talking to someone at the store or something and they'll be like, oh, I love your hair color. And I'm like, oh, thanks. You know, like my girlfriend helped me pick it out. Right. And then they'll be like, didn't you mention your husband earlier? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And people are like really confused. And I just like, you know, kind of keep going and make sure that I'm not, you know, making it a bigger deal than it needs to be.
Well,
That's
also
always...
like, I don't need to clear up your confusion. This is just my life, you know? I think that's a lot of the things. Sometimes people assume that they have the right to your explanation when it's like, I don't really need to explain what's happening, you know? And I do that, right, to my family and friends where I'm like, I don't get it. I want to understand. So that's why I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, but like, I don't get it yet, you know? So it's like, you don't have to give people the right to an explanation.
Right. I always do prefer folks to ask questions instead of assume or instead of just silent judgment. You know, I think that's always the worst. Like, I always hear about being the topic of conversation, you know, and I'm like, why isn't anyone actually talking to me? Why are we talking about me and not to me? If it makes you uncomfortable, if it, you know, if you have a question, if you don't, and you also don't have to understand it to respect it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like that's a heavy burden though? Like, do you ever feel like you're like the where you live, like the poster child to like explain this to people?
Yes. And I think that there's also, I was actually talking about this in therapy the other day, in couples therapy with my spouse, where we were talking about how it often is a little bit isolating, when you don't either have a lot of other representation, but you feel like you are the representation to sort of show up as an authentic couple, because you feel like you have to defend the lifestyle and you're like, we have to perform. We can't, you know, we have to make sure, like, be perfect so that people are like, oh, we knew it. We knew that polyamory stuff wasn't going to work. Of course, you know, and I had a lot of shame around that. I've been married before. I just got married actually for the second time this summer. Yes, in July. Thank you. It was a beautiful backyard Maine wedding. And I was married before, and I remember I married very young. I was 23 when I was married. And then I divorced about 4 years after, and I felt like I'd failed, that, you know, everyone's going to think it was because of like polyamory. Everyone was going to, you know, I carried a lot of that shame with me, and it was really isolating. And I think that I've learned a little bit more that it's okay to show up more authentically, and that I don't have to take that on. And that, you know, at the end of the day, it's my life, and I'm the one that's living it, and I'm the one that's living these experiences. And that's what's going to be most important at the end.
Yep. I love that.
So since like this podcast really is about trying to expand perspectives and like educate people a little bit, can we just rewind a tiny bit? Are you comfortable just explaining what polyamory is?
Sure. Yeah, we should probably talk about what it is.
I was like a handful of people that follow us regularly, and I know that they're probably pretty curious about what this is, and I can guarantee I got a couple of people right in my head that don't know what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So polyamory is the practice of relationships for more than one person with the consent and knowledge of everyone involved. It can be considered an umbrella term for ethical non-monogamy. So you'll see sometimes a lot of that being used, ENM for short, so ethical non-monogamy, because, you know, non-monogamy, unethical non-monogamy is what a lot of people consider to be cheating. So they're like, this is different than cheating because everyone's consenting, everyone's participating, you know, and is aware of what's going on. Underneath that umbrella, underneath that ethical non-monogamy, polyamory umbrella, there's lots of different versions of non-monogamy. For example, a lot of people talk about swingers or the swinger lifestyle. That would be considered ethical non-monogamy as well. Open relationships. There's, you know, sometimes a big difference between what people would consider polyamory and open relationships. And I can talk about that difference as well. And then, you know, what's important to understand is when someone comes out and says, oh yeah, I'm polyamorous, it's important to ask, like, what does that look like for you? Because every polyamorous relationship is different, just like every monogamous relationship is different, right? People have different understandings, maybe rules, or, you know, ways in which they actually practice. So it's considered more of a practice. For me, polyamory is a bit of an identity as well. I consider being polyamorous a part of my identity just as much as I consider being Catholic, being a woman, being queer, part of my identities. They're all things that are part of my identity at all times and how I present myself in the world. So it's less of a choice, particularly even if I were single, I would still be considered polyamorous. It's not.
Okay, I love that you said that, because that was going to be a question of mine. You know what I mean? Like, do you still consider, when you're single and you have no partners, do you still consider yourself polyamorous? Okay, I love that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of basically what people's boundaries are.
Exactly.
Right? Is that okay?
Yeah. And people's boundaries can all look really different, and they can vary by relationship, by person. For example, there's relationships in which, you know, one of the people in the relationships are dating multiple people, but, you know, the other one isn't, or everyone's dating, or they're all dating each other, or, you know, they never share partners, or they're like a close triad. There's so many terms. Polyamorous people love, like, fancy terminology. You can like Google like polyamory like terms, and you'll have like this whole thing, you know, there's like unicorns, triads, polyfidelity, like just all of these crazy terms. So at the end of the day, it's just more about talking, you know, what does this look like for you, and what does that mean, you know, for you and your partner. So I identify as polyamorous. There's another term called relationship anarchy, and I tend to be closer on the relationship anarchy spectrum. And it sounds more exciting than it is. It's not like relationship anarchy. Like,
I was like, that sounds like a dope ass
like
name.
a revolution. But the way that I like to explain relationship anarchy is that not all relationships fit into these specific molds of like just friends or like romantic or sexual relationships. I think that relationships can be really fluid, and sometimes there's intimacy and closeness that's not particularly romantic or sexual. There's friendships that are more familial than just friends. You know, like there's such a wide spectrum of how relationships can be, and that fluidity. I don't want to feel like I am limiting a relationship by putting a label on it, or you know, sort of putting it into a peg and be like, oh, we're just friends, or oh, we're like dating, like that's my partner, you know, when it could be a little bit of both, and things like that. Yeah, I feel like that's so much information. I definitely don't want to confuse.
No, I love all that because it's super. You're explaining things really thorough. I do have to say, we have a friend, Jeannie, when you said like, oh, I don't know if you were laughing, Melissa. I was like giggling to myself because we have a joke with Jeannie that she literally has like like Melissa and I identify as queer. Jeannie's a lesbian, but she has like mask. Like, I don't know any of that shit. I just see a woman and I'm like, she's fine. Yeah, like I don't know. It's the same with like weed. You know, she has all the. She's like a university of cannabis, and I'm just like, girl, I don't know. Just pass it. Let me hit it. I don't really care. You know. And so when you were saying all that, I was like, I instantly thought of Jeannie. And it was like, she does a lot of the audio stuff for us. So I was instantly like, Jeannie, like giggling, because some of these terms get out of control, right? Where I'm like, I can't keep up.
And they'll change. And, you know, I think it happens in every community, though. Just like in our queer community, we'll have our own little like lingo, and we know what it means, you know. And it's the same way. It gets a little out of control. But, you know, there's some terms that are important, some terms that are not. Sometimes I get misused. One that I laugh about all the time is so the term unicorn or unicorn hunting comes up a lot, especially if you're like on Tinder. So a unicorn, it's when a couple is looking for a person, usually a bisexual female that is hot and willing to date you and your partner and just you two. The reason those are called unicorns is because it doesn't exist. It's not something that particularly logistically makes sense. It would be the ideal, right? Like, oh, me and my partner want to open up our relationship. Look, we found this hot girl that likes both of us and wants to be our special little girlfriend, and we don't have to share her with anybody else but each other. Like, that sounds beautiful in a perfect world, but human beings don't really work that way. It's hard to expect one person to like both of you at the same time in the same way without causing any issues. Yeah, and what makes you guys so special? Like, so it's funny because people don't realize that that's where that term comes from. That we're like, that's not realistic and that doesn't really exist. That's why it's called a unicorn. So people will put it in their profiles and be like, we're a couple, we're unicorn hunting. And it's like, good luck. I
see it all the time.
Good luck hunting something that doesn't exist.
Hey, listen, maybe it's my ego talking. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like all three of us are unicorns, but
yeah, and I did in my early 20s, I had a little stint as a unicorn, except I had multiple couples, there was going to be sharing regardless. And that was really fun. It was like a fun thing, to just show up for the fun parts of a relationship and then dip out when they like had to do things like pay bills and raise their children. I mean, like, call me later.
Call me when you're child-free Friday night.
Right. But there's a lot of couples privilege that happens that can feel that third partner make them feel isolated, or like they're not on equal footing. A lot of dynamics that are really important to consider when you're considering multiple relationships, and the different connections, and people are going to connect differently, and comfort levels are going to change. So it's really important to be constantly checking in when you're engaging in these relationships, because just because someone said this is what I'm signing up for, this is fun, I'm into it on Friday, doesn't mean that come Wednesday they're going to feel the same way.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. How did you get into this lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have always been non-monogamous. I've never successfully practiced monogamy in my life. In high school, I remember asking my mom if I could have permission to date more than one person at a time. My mother was very, very strict, very like Mexican strict mother. And she, of course, if I was going to go out, she needed to know what I was doing. So I had to be honest and be like, well, I'm going on a date, but it's a different person this time. And she laughed and she goes, okay, just don't get caught, pendeja, and I was like, okay.
She went that far?
I was like, I would never, Mom, different school districts.
I know the rules of the game, okay?
Yeah, like that's not how that works. Yeah. But because there was no representation and I had no exposure to alternative relationship styles, I was a cheater. Yeah. So I cheated, throughout like high school and in college. I cheated on every partner I ever had. And I remember it would be awful because I would feel this like super immense guilt, right? I would like confess and be like, oh my God, I did it again. It was like a broken record of like that Britney Spears, like, oops, I did it. Oops, I did it. Oops, I did it. And I honestly was just like, I felt like there was something wrong with me. And it would be interesting because it never felt malicious, however. I never felt like, oh, I don't love this person that I'm with, or I don't respect them. I just also really like this other person, and I had a really hard time balancing that. And it wasn't until I was 19 that I was talking to my partner of the time. This was my first husband. And as a queer person, bisexual, he was like, well, we're gonna get married. We've decided. We're 19. We're it. And I was like, yeah, for sure. He's like, but you're queer, so it's gonna be weird, right, for you to be like stuck with a man for the rest of your life. I'm like, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, I was like, you're telling me. So we talked about it, and we really thought we were inventing polyamory. We thought that we were inventing this new thing that's never been done before, where it wasn't just about me sleeping with women on the side. It was like, I wanted to have meaningful relationships, and I wanted to respect the relationship I was already in. So I did what people did in the early 2000s, and I like put like a ad on Craigslist, like
what? You went
old school. Yeah. Like W4W kind of situation. And then I found out that we didn't invent it, that there were other people doing these things. Yeah, there was like a whole community. So it was like open relationships, and I looked at them as like polyamory, and I was like, what? And my mind just, so then I did, oh my God, I'm totally dating myself. So then, of course, I Googled it, and I joined a Yahoo group for the local.
Yeah. You might as well said AOL.
I know, right? I'm like, I am making my friends.
MySpace group.
Yeah. So I joined this group, and there was a local meetup for folks who were practicing polyamory in my area. And at this point, I had already been polyamorous for, let's see, I was old enough to drink, and I started when I was 19. So I started around 19 and 20. And then I joined a local group and got to know other folks in the area. And it was a really big evolution. I mean, I think that my story isn't unique. There is a lot of folks that you'll see that are open in their marriage because one of the partners is bisexual and, is trying to fulfill like that part of their like sexual needs and desires while, staying with a partner that they already have. Yep. And there's these crazy evolutions. There's another term. There's a quiz at the end, so I hope you guys are taking notes. There's the OPP, which is the one penis policy. Yeah, right. It stands for the one penis policy, which is it's a trap. It's a trap that a lot of people fall into when they're trying out polyamorous for the first time, polyamory. They're like, okay, my wife can. It makes sense. I'm a dude. She likes girls. I'm gonna make sure that she can date women. But she could only date other women, no other men. And it's really interesting to think that you can dictate what other people are gonna fall for. Like, if you can turn your radar towards one gender only, like that's not how human beings work. No. You also can't really own people. You can't like dictate. It's really hard to like shed a lot of that. Unlearn a lot of what society has taught us is normal in relationships, and there's just so much unlearning. So my ex-husband was like, one penis policy, you can't date other men, you can just date other women. That didn't last very long.
yeah I was like,
that's not how it works.
Yeah,
right. I was like, what if and like and it's problematic, what does that even mean, and what does that mean in terms of gender and sexual identities of people? Like what happens when you bring trans people into the conversation? Then what is that? So it's been really, it was a long sort of process to figure out what those boundaries are, and they're forever evolving. Now, fast forward to now, I've been living and practicing polyamory for almost 13, 14 years now. So most of, my adult life, ethically at least. And our rules are act out of love and act out of respect.
Okay.
And those are pretty much it, because everything else should fall under that. When the more rules you make, you sort of increase that margin of error.
Yeah.
Right. And then people are just like restrictive. People are feeling, then there's like the guilt. Then there's, you're spending more time fighting and processing than you are actually learning about yourself and enjoying the presence of others. So we always say, the actions that you take, are you acting out of love and acting out of respect for the relationship? And it's sort of sorts itself out. And then, you know, there's other things like my partner likes to know that I'm safe at home, you know, like if I'm out and about, like that doesn't matter if I'm on a date or not. They're just like, where did you end up? Are you alive? And you know, and I used to be like, you're not my dad, like I don't have to tell you anything. And I'm like, okay, well I guess you're not asking for a lot.
You're literally just asking if I'm safe or not.
I'm like,
yes or no question.
yeah, right, like did you die?
Yeah. Is you dead?
No, but yeah.
So how many partners do you have currently?
So I currently have so I'm married, and my spouse and I have been together for 6 years and 8 months. We just celebrated our 8-month anniversary, so it's like right fresh. I also am seeing another gentleman, and that's actually pretty much it. You know, I'm actively dating. So I have a few dates here and there, but in terms of like relationships, I would say 2. I had 2 breakups during Pisces season, so it's been a rough one. Yeah, I had 2 breakups in 1 week. Yeah, there's pros and cons to the lifestyle.
Yeah. What does that look like? I guess that's where for me, I'm like, just so like your partner has a couple people, you have a couple people, just, you know, figuratively. And then you're going like, is it ever uncomfortable for your partner to have to like comfort you while you're going through this like sadness, you know, with these other people?
I would say that is probably one of the most difficult parts about polyamory. I think a lot of people think it's jealousy. And honestly, it's comforting your partner when someone else broke their heart. You know, it sucks to see someone you love be in pain. In general, you know, and when you're like loving them, and you know, I think a lot of the times people are like, well, why aren't I enough, or why is one person not enough, and things like that. And I think it's important to always state that that's not what it's about, right? It's not about completion. It's not about like people in your life, relationships should never be about completing anyone. So the idea of enough or not enough isn't actually like it's a fallacy. But you know, I think it's also one of the best parts about polyamory is that, you know, when someone breaks your heart, you have someone that loves you, that's there for you. Like even at your lowest, you're not alone. And it goes both ways. But yeah, no, I get I'm a Leo, so I'm like pretty intense. So, you know, if someone like breaks my partner's heart, or like, I'm like, like they're dead to me. Like,
yeah. Do you guys like intermingle? Like, do you all hang out, or do you keep it pretty separate?
So that's a really good question. So like I said before, everyone does it differently. We practice what is called a kitchen table sort of polyamory, which is the idea that all of your partners and your partner's partners could sit at the kitchen table together. So it's and it's important. It's a part of it. It's a non-negotiable for me. We don't do don't ask, don't tell situations. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's when people, you know, I love it. It's another pitfall. People think that they can do like the don't ask, don't tell, you do you, I'll do me. But when you compartmentalize people, you are also compartmentalizing parts of your life. So then who do you share what with? You know, let's say I'm playing for a sports team and I want to be supported, but if my partners aren't going to be okay hanging out with each other, do some of them miss the game? You know, where's my cheering squad? If my cheering squad can't be together, if they can't support all parts of my life, you know, how do you decide who goes where? And it just creates a lot more confusion. So if someone's like, oh, I don't want to know, it's like you're choosing to not be a part of my entire life and to not know about everything that's important to me. Everyone in my life is an important part of my life. And I want to be able to share that with all the parts of my life with them and them too, and vice versa. So you know, and there's of course you like can't force everyone to like be best friends. That's never the goal. And my partner will be the first to tell you that they're not always like the biggest fans of the people I date. But you know, it's all about respect. It's like when your best friend or your sibling dates someone and you're like, oh, I can't stand them, but they're happy and I'm gonna support them. And you know, you don't want
that's reality.
Yeah. And then when they break up, you can finally talk all the shit you want.
I've been through that. I've been through that a couple times.
Yeah. I know. I'm always like, what? Yeah. My
Like, that
partner
person
loves
was an
doing that.
asshole. I could finally say it. Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
I had a breakup. Yeah, I had a break. One of my breakups recently. Everyone has been like, you know what? I never really liked him. He gave me really weird vibes. But I was like, where was all of this? While I was like,
Period. They should at least told you once, damn, and then let it go.
Fake for that. Y'all fake for that.
Right? Like, you need to let me know. There's some shit I didn't see.
Yeah, and it's always funny. Like my partner will be very, very honest with me, and they'll tell me like which of my exes they love and which of my exes they hated. They're like, this was my least favorite one, and like they'll rank them, and I'm like, oh my god, you're so funny. I think it's hilarious.
Don't rank them. That's
yeah. They're like, oh my god, okay, well, this one's my favorite. Like we're still friends.
Yeah.
And because of that relationship anarchy and the fluidity of relationships, I am friends with a lot of my exes. A lot of my closest friends started by dating. Because I am a hopeless romantic. I think that whenever I have chemistry with someone, I'm like, well, we're gonna date, and then it's like, oh, I guess we could just be friends. I guess that could have been the energy.
I guess that's also an option.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But we just date first, get it out of the way, see if it's a thing, and then if it doesn't work out, I guess no.
Well, like
you don't really build up to anything. It's just it works or it doesn't work.
Yeah. What is
your spouse?
Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
I was gonna say, is your spouse currently dating other people right now?
No. Although I finally got them on Tinder, very exciting. They tend to be a little bit more monogamous. They have dated in the past. It's gone well and it's gone not well. But they don't really date. I tend to attract a lot of introverts. And they like being in a relationship.
I wonder why.
I know, right? In a polyamorous relationship with me, because I'm a lot, but I'm very independent, and I, take care of myself, and I have other partners. So that way they can have this crazy extrovert girlfriend or wife, and then like she's gone a couple nights of the week, and you have the house to yourself, and you can just be by yourself.
That sounds like the dream.
Recharge and recuperate, and you get to do your own things, and yeah. So they're, they're like, I can barely keep up with you, so no, not right now. Like the way my life is set up right now, I can only handle one, maybe down the line. But yeah, they're definitely open to dating. They are more into, of course, it's just about finding those natural connections as they come up. They just don't like a lot of people, so it hasn't come up as much.
What's the dating pool like in Portland? Sorry, Melissa.
It's terrible. It's like 17,000 girls named Emma.
Worse than Sac? Worse than Sac?
So bad. It's bad. First of all, it's a smaller population, and it is one of the whitest states in the nation. Oh. Like it's like 93% white.
That's the island of Caucasus.
Yeah. Like I moved here and like the percentage went up a little bit, and they all like clapped. I make a joke. I said that people leave Maine and then they usually come back. I'm like, yeah, they go out, they find a miscellaneous beige person to bring back and help with the population in the city.
Doing my due diligence.
I'm doing my part here. But yeah, no, it's pretty funny. I feel like it's been fun. I mean, it's been fun, but it's also been like moving here in the middle of a pandemic, trying to be polyamorous and dating during a pandemic has had its own sets of challenges. But I am a people person, so I just don't mind going out and like sitting at bars by myself and like making friends where I can. So it's a little bit easier for me, but it's a lot harder for folks who aren't into the bar scene or aren't into, whatever. But I always, I give the same dating advice to polyamorous and monogamous people. It's just like, you do what you love. The more that you focus on like doing the things that make you happy, the more likely you're going to run into someone that's also doing the things that makes them happy. And then you'll have that connection, so it's like, but get out of your house and do things, whatever it is.
Well, it's like you'll attract those people if you're just kind of living your life and doing the stuff that you love, It's funny though, because I think a lot of people, I had breakfast with a friend yesterday. I like talked her to getting on Tinder. I was like, dude, just try it. Like, it's not even if it is the booty call app, like you don't have to participate, right? Like,
you don't.
Just
and
get
you
on
can
there.
Make your own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like texting her yesterday and she's like, yeah, I'm on here. Like, I'm on the hunt. I'm like, girl, get it. Like,
yeah.
I'm so stoked. I
know,
was like,
that's
so
what I said. Like, I finally
it.
got my partner to make one. And I was just like, and the thing is, I've always used apps. I've always been like on OkCupid and Tinder. Like, I've never not been on the apps. But for me, it's not particularly for dating. It's just to make connections. Like, I'm just open to connections at all times. And when I was living in Sacramento, my favorite thing to do was to find newcomers. Because I was pretty plugged in. I was like, I love when people came in and I was like, you don't have any friends, you don't know things. Like, tell me what you're into. I will find it. I will figure it out. I will plug you into where you need to go, and a lot of really beautiful friendships came out of that organically. And it was pretty exciting. That's actually how I met my partner. They were like, messaged me on OkCupid. They're like, looking for friends. You seem kind of fun, but I would never date you. They're like a crazy polyamorous person. And like, I'm just interested in being friends. And I was like, yeah, by the second time we hung out. Anyway, now we're married. Living in Maine.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, good luck, kid.
famous last words.
Words. We can't date. Yeah.
Do you miss your calling as being a matchmaker or what?
Right. No, I think I've done a lot of community organizing. So in general, I'm just like a really community based person. And that's reflected in the way that I love and the way that I work and the way that, how I'm connected. Moving here to Maine has been really interesting just because I don't have that community anymore or yet. But, things take time. I'm not in a rush. There's a lot of things always going on and I'm taking my time and I'm exploring new hobbies and activities. I'm starting rugby up again. I started doing stand-up comedy. Like,
okay, get it.
She's doing it. she's
doing all the things.
Yeah.
How open-minded is the community out there? I know it's very white, so culturally it's not very diverse, but are they open-minded, the community that you're in now?
No.
Actually,
I actually just had an incident recently that was pretty hurtful, pretty painful. I'm very lucky that because, like I said, I'm very out. My partner's family from the very beginning has been very aware that we're polyamorous and whatnot, and they've accepted me, even if they don't get it or don't understand it. They don't judge me. They don't treat me any differently or anything like that, which is beautiful. I didn't have that in my first marriage. We were pretty much in the closet from his parents. And it's been, I can tell the difference when people figure it out. Like I said, I don't, I am very, very natural about things, but there was this group of adults that I met, through friends. And at first they were like, oh my God, you're new. Come in, be our new best friend. We love you. And I was like all excited. I was like, I have friends. And then as soon as they figured out that I was polyamorous, the whole mood and the way they treated me completely changed. And I mentioned this to the mutual friend, and they were like, no, you're crazy. It's all in your head. And I was like, I'm telling you, they hate me. And as soon as they found out I was poly, that's when things change. And they're like, no, you're just, and people, I think it's funny, and by funny, I mean horrible, how often the gut instincts of, especially of women and femmes are so disregarded and dismissed. I think that person doesn't like me. They're like, oh, you're just being insecure. It's all in your head. And it's it's a vibe. We are, we have instincts for a reason, and I trust mine a lot. And then of course it was confirmed. So because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm Catholic, I'm throwing a queerster, a big Easter party at my house, and I'm super excited about it. I love hosting. I love having get-togethers. And, I was like, okay, we're going to have an Easter egg hunt for the kids. And then we're going to do an Easter egg hunt for the adults, which is just going to be eggs filled with Jell-O shots.
Yes.
And, and art activities and painting and yard games and a potluck brunch and a bloody, I'm just really excited. So I made my little flyer on Canva and sent it out, texted it out, put it in the group chat for this this group of adults that I was friends with, or so I thought, and no one acknowledged it. No one said anything. And then later I found out, you know, somebody got very drunk and forthcoming and told me how they were all like, well, how are we going to bring our kids to this house where these people are like living this lifestyle?
I mean, in a car or by
How are we
train?
right? Yeah.
I
Like,
mean, however you need to do it.
they're young. How are we going to explain, you know? And it was pretty awful. Apparently I had become this whole like topic of conversation about how they didn't understand it. They didn't think it was right, and they didn't want to expose their children to it.
Well,
Did they
cool.
make
Your kids will grow up in the closet, unhappy and fucking resenting you.
Yeah, and
No, carry on.
Yeah, it felt pretty bad. I talked about it. I shared it with, you know, my friends on Facebook and my family, and it was really validating, you know, the people that actually know me. First of all, I love kids. I love kids so much, you know, and it's hard when you're, especially in like queer relationships, we don't just get to like get pregnant for fun, you know, like, and then people take that for granted, I think, and so all of my friends, like, I'm Tia Keyko, I'm like the fun auntie, I'm always like I'm like the childless auntie, like the drunk aunt at all the parties, like I'm a staple. I even do like, I do face painting, so I show up to like kids parties, and that way I'm like the more popular one.
Yeah,
when
like
all the babies love me. I know, I'm like everyone, and you know, so it was pretty hurtful because they're like, they obviously don't know you. That's obviously how you're deciding to raise their children, and that really sucks for them and their children, you know. And it was like I said earlier, that whole, why, you know, talk to me, you know. And then also the way that it was talked about was pretty painful, and the, you know, like, what are we supposed, but what about the children, you know, like I was like some heathen and trying to lure children into my house of sin, you know.
Did they ask you, or is this your shit? Let's be honest.
Right.
You know what it is. It's you're Mr. Still Your Girl, so that's what they're nervous about. Like, were they all coupled up?
I told you, it's the jealousy at the end of the day.
They all think you're gonna come in and you're gonna be this fucking polyamorous queer temptress, and their man's gonna like get a boner when they see you. That's what it really is.
I mean,
I get that
no,
sometimes. I'm
I was gonna say,
be afraid. No, hide your kids. I know.
Hide your kids. Hide your wife.
Hide your wife. Hide your husband. It me.
you think there's gonna be this like barbecue gangbang or what? Like,
yeah. You were gonna have like an Easter egg, like find your dick hunt. I don't understand what's happening.
It was
just a human being.
You come out as a chocolate bunny, like.
No.
Take a bite.
That's the kind of Easter party I want to go to.
Right? Melting them off, baby.
You're lucky you live in Maine, girl. Me and Melissa would be there.
Okay, you guys are disinvited. Okay, no, just kidding.
You zoom us into that Easter.
Right. The burlesque show is right after. No, and it was just, you know, it was so funny to me in a way because I haven't experienced it so blatantly in a long time. And you know, I have faced a lot of like just hate and bigotry because of my lifestyle, quote unquote, choices in the past. I was actually fired from the Catholic Church for being polyamorous when I was in my 20s. I know. We were like, I've reconciliated my faith and the rest of my identities, but you know, the Catholic Church has not, which is, you know, more like their problem. I'm not taking that on. That's not my job to take on. They can figure that out themselves. Yeah. They said they didn't mind that I was gay, because that was like kind of trendy. They're like, yeah, we can handle it, but you have to choose one person at a time, Keyko. And I was like, what? They literally, the priest sat me down and was like, well, it's okay if you're gay, but can you just choose one person? And I was like,
my mom don't even tell me shit. Like, you got me.
I was like, no, that's not how that works. They're like, yeah, well, we're gonna have to ask you to resign. I was like, okay.
I'll be like, cut me my severance check.
Yeah, and because, you know, they're protected because it's like a church, they don't have to, like, which I think is BS. They don't have to follow all of these like non-discrimination laws that other companies have to follow because they get that religious exemption, which is interesting. So they actually told me to my face, this has nothing to do with your job performance. You do really great work. You're amazing, but it's because of your lifestyle. we like can't have you working here. We can't have you be a part of leadership. And I was like, that definitely shook my faith. For a while, I took a little bit of a break from practicing and stuff while I sort of figured that out. But my mom doesn't talk to me anymore because of it. My ex-husband's like family, I've experienced a lot of loss as soon as I started being more open
living your authentic life.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, what I found was that it wasn't as much of a loss as I thought it would be. Because just, and it's so cliche to say, but like what I've gained has been just so much bigger and so much better. And my favorite thing about being polyamorous is that every relationship, every person teaches me something new about myself and about the world. So like it just keeps expanding and expanding, and it's, I feel like even the messy, even the bad and the toxic relationships have all taught me something, and it's been an experience. I mean, I'm also exhausted. I've been averaging like 3 to 6 relationships the past 13 years.
Damn, girl.
I know.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So, I would say I've had some experiences, but it's one of those things where, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't be with who I am, where I am. And it's so freeing, and it's good to be, if you're not going to like me, if you're going to be hateful, let it be about something that I love about myself and something that I'm proud of than you liking me for something I'm not.
Yeah.
I think absolutely nothing good to the table.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's weird because I feel like the people who are like on the internet hating, like hiding behind a keyboard, or people even in your life that are like secretly hating, they've never experienced what it feels like to be your true self. You know what I mean? So it's like they don't know what it's like to be your true, genuine self, living your genuine life. They don't know that. And that sucks. If they just did the work, they would know what it feels like. It's the best feeling,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is work though.
100%.
I don't know. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. It is, and it is a lot of work. I know that even my partner, when we started dating, and they struggled at first. They were monogamous. They had no experience. They, just fell in love with me, and this is what they got. So they had to do the work, and there was a lot of unlearning. For example, there was a lot of internalized misogyny that they didn't understand. For example, when people were like, oh, well, I don't want, my girl being with other people, like that idea that the more people that they sleep with, the value and the worth lessens, and I'm like, hey, what if I told you that women's bodies aren't objects? And it's like
there's no ownership over our bodies,
right? My body doesn't lose value based on what I do with it, because it is not an object to be placed a value on like that. It's not to be depreciated and appreciated with time and investment. It's me. It's who I am as a person. And once I placed it that way, they were like, oh, like that's where that's coming from. And even things like jealousy, a lot of the times, that's the number one thing that people will say. They're always like, oh, I could never. I'm just like, I would be way too jealous. And when people say things like that, 2 things come to mind. Number one, jealousy is just another emotion. There's nothing wrong with jealousy. It's just like anger. It's just like happiness. There are things that we experience, and it's important to experience them and to talk about them and to work with them. And it's more of like the symptom than the actual issue. Also, if you're like, oh, I'm like, is jealousy like your trait that you're really trying to protect that much? You're like, I could never, I'm too jealous. I was like, that doesn't sound like a fun thing for you. But it's, it's the way I always explain it to my partners is, if you're ever feeling jealous, and then you're like, oh, I shouldn't be insecure, that's not your journey to do by yourself. What could I be doing to make you feel more secure in our relationship, right? If I'm dating someone new, I want you to be like oh man, like my girlfriend makes me feel like such a big deal. They're dating someone new. I hope they know what a big deal I am.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I feel like less of a big deal because they're giving attention over there and I'm not getting it. Like, that's not on you, like that's on me. So if you are feeling insecure and jealous, then what am I, what can I be doing better?
Yeah.
To
We're not in a
make you
safe
feel
space
like,
if you're feeling that way.
exactly. Like, what could I be doing to make you feel like the big deal that you are? And it's a lot of, it's work, and if I feel that I can't give that in my relationships, if I can't put in the work to make my partners feel like the big deal that they are to me, then I have no business being in those relationships.
Yeah, it's not the time.
And sometimes, and that's what you have to say. And it changes. I had a partner that was like, yeah, I'm down. This is everything I've always wanted. I feel so loved. I feel so important. And then later they were like, I don't think I can handle this. I thought I was in a place that I wanted to be, and I don't think I am. And you're not doing anything wrong. My comfort levels have changed. And I was like, that sucks, but that's your truth and that's real. And I'm glad that you're at least self-aware enough to like realize that. Cause I will keep trying to make things work, to a fault sometimes. And, and then we had to like transition that relationship back into sort of like a friendship or break up because the needs changed. They're like, I kind of, don't love the kitchen table aspect of it. I kind of prefer to be a little bit more don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. And I was like, that's not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of just everybody. It sounds like you have to kind of have similar values for things to work, right? Like everybody needs to understand like what's on the table and if this serves you or if it doesn't.
Right. I think that the boundaries, instead of making them relationship rules, like here's what our agreements are, I think it's about personal boundaries and being honest with the other person, what your non-negotiables are and sticking to them and respecting them and enforcing those boundaries, right? Boundary setting is only half the battle. The other battle is enforcing the boundary, and that's just as much your responsibility as anyone else's. So I'm always, it's important to like have these conversations and check in and be like, where are we at? Even, it's not always fun, but it's important.
Conversations, like open, honest conversations are really hard regardless of who it's with, right? Like, we've had to face some stuff and I've had to face stuff with other friends and family members. Same, when I first came out, there's family members I don't talk to anymore. And it's like a death and it's hard. Do you have a customer?
We're closed. Sorry.
This is awesome. But yeah. I don't have anything for you. There's no meatballs available. See the meatball side. Well, wait a second. That is hilarious. When I first got on, I was like, are you working? She's like, I'm closed for lunch. I'm like, that's awesome. I love that. So I'm back. Here we go, guys. I'm back.
It's raining. No one's out there. It's fine.
I know every. No, were you going to finish it?
No. You're good. I said what yeah.
I know that every like polyamorous relationship is different. For you specifically, like what do you and your partners decide cheating is or determine cheating to be?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good question. Like you said, every relationship is different. For us specifically, it's more of like blatant lying about someone or something, is definitely considered like cheating or a breach of trust. Just that lack of communication. It really changes sometimes. For example, like I'll give you an example. It's good. That's a really good question. It's a little bit hard to answer at times. For example, in general, because it's not an open relationship. So an open relationship is usually more sexually based. It's not about having other like long-term relationships. It's about having just sexual relations with other people outside of your relationship, with the consent of your partner. people sometimes say like that's a little bit easier because they have a hard time with the idea of their partner being emotionally attached to someone else, as they're, you know, in regards to like being sexually. So we're not in an open relationship. So there's a bit of an understanding that I'm not just going out and going home with whomever I want, you know. Not saying that that doesn't happen. Like,
I was gonna say, is that an option? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it is, but then I would, you know, need to communicate that. If I'm not communicating that, my partner just thinks I'm out having, you know, a good time with my friends. And, you know, that's where that like communication of like, you know, I want to know like where you're at. And if you don't want to tell me, why don't you want to tell me that? Right. So it's all about the intent. I think the intent behind it. But then, for example, if I'm going to Dinah Shore, I'm not looking for relationships at Dinah Shore. And,
is?
you know, right, exactly. Some people find their people at Dinah Shore, and I'm like, you guys came to the wrong. I don't know what you thought you were lesbians. Am I right? Like, we can't help ourselves.
I'm just trying to U-Haul. I'm like, pump it.
Yeah, you do not come to Palm Springs to U-Haul.
No.
No, but you know, like that would be, you know, we call it Dinah Shore rules. So I'll be like, you know, I'm just gonna go, and if I meet someone, like it's a hookup spot, it is what it is. Are you consenting to that? Because that's what I'm doing, you know. And they're like, got it, understood, right? But then when I'm back home, it's not Dinah Shore rules, unless I say Dinah Shore rules. Like sometimes I'll go on like a vacation and be like, hey babe, so in San Diego it's gonna be Dinah Shore rules. But it's the intent and that communication, I think that is important, and that respect, and that comfortability level. So yeah. And you know, they are breaches of trust. So if you breach trust, if you break boundaries, then it's the dealing of that with the consequences of that, right? Like, what does that look like for your partner? What you know, how do you earn that trust back? You know, and that still happens in polyamorous relationships. I've been cheated on. And it was the same thing. It was just the lack of communication and the blatant lying. You know, someone was like all of a sudden wasn't very available. All of a sudden wasn't really responding. And then, you know, I found out that they were, you know, like hooking up with their exes again. And I was like, all you had to do was tell me. All you had to do was communicate. But you lied and you snuck around and on purpose. Like, you made that choice. I'm literally polyamorous. I'm like literally open-minded and understanding.
Why do you think
about
that happens?
To be, because it's uncomfortable. I think that a lot of people are just really uncomfortable with being that vulnerable, or they're cowards. They're afraid of doing that work, that you're going to say no, that you're not into it. So it's like cowardice, laziness, and fear, I think, are what leads to people being able to be more upfront and honest about things. So like, I just don't want to deal with the drama. And it's like, so we're just going to create drama for fun.
Well, it's probably that fear of like losing your person, right? Like if you go, I know people have like been in monogamous marriages, and then, you know, however many years go by, which is also, I think, a common stigma. People think it's like, you're just bored in your relationship or you're blah, blah. It's like, well, yeah, one person isn't going to provide everything that you need emotionally, mentally, physically. You know, it's a lot of pressure. Like we've said a lot on this podcast, but I think people are fearful that if they have that conversation, that could be the end. Like, I don't want to lose this person because I'm about to tell them like, hey, I am interested in dating other people. And that person, you know, naturally is going to think like, well, it's not me. Is it me? Am I not enough? Am I not, you know? So it's that fear.
It just makes me think like, why are we with these people then? You know, like if you can't have that type of open, honest communication with your partner, that's something you need to like take a look in the mirror at. Like, am I with the right person if I can't talk to them? You know, and
who's to say it's even your partner?
Yeah, or whoever. Yeah, I mean,
might be you. You know.
Yeah.
Creating.
Yeah. It's hard, and there's definitely a lot of risk. You know, like I said, I've had my share of loss, you know, but like, what is life but taking risks over and over again? We take risks every day in different aspects of our life. Some we're more comfortable with and some we're not. And what I found is, you know, once you do one and the world doesn't fall apart and nothing, like, you know, it gets easier to take those other steps.
God, it feels like that though, doesn't it?
Also, not everything has to be permanent. You know, I know lots of folks that were polyamorous for a really long time, and then we're monogamous or vice versa. You know, it doesn't have to be a forever thing. It is for me. But I was talking to my spouse about this actually right before we got married, right? Like it was like the weeks leading up to the wedding, we were having all these like anxiety conversations. You know, I'd be like, oh my God, wait, homeschooling or regular schooling for our children? Like I just want to like make sure that we're on the same page for all these like random things that are like not even on the table, you know? And I said, hey, are you ready to say yes to 1 million lifetimes with me? We're going to have more than one lifetime. Think about it. We're in our 30s. We've already had a few lifetimes. You know, there were times where you were like a fire performer in Northern California, and I was like married and working for the Catholic, married to a man and working for the Catholic Church. Like we've had all these different lifetimes. Yeah. And I was like, and we're signing up to have a whole bunch of them together. I was like, there's going to be times where we might have another partner that lives with us for like 10 years and it's like a really big part of our life. And then, you know, it ends and that's like a whole decade, you know, or like times where I'm not dating anyone and it's just the two of us because we're busy raising children. There's going to be times where we each might have 5, like, you know, I'm like, it's going to look different and it's going to continue to evolve because we're dynamic human beings and that's just what it is. So it's about going into it with open-mindedness and then also just being aware that, you know, you can't fit people into a mold. You can't have an idea of like, this is the relationship I want and find someone to fit that idea. It's like you find the people, find that connection, and then the relationship will blossom on its own and what it's supposed to be or what it's not.
I love that you're having these open conversations too, because I feel like people, and even myself, I feel like the last couple of years, my big thing is I try not to talk in absolutes because there's so many things in my like teens and 20s is like, I would never. It's like, okay, bitch. Yeah. You did all those things, you know? Yeah. So it's like, it's so hard because you want to say, I never would do this or you really don't know the people that are going to come in your life. And like, I've had this happen to me. Like somebody came in my life and I was pretty set on a lifestyle I was living and like blew my shit up. You know what I mean? Literally blew my shit up.
I'm never having children. Now I'm like, I need 5. Like,
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty set on that, but listen, never say never. I'm not going to say it. I don't know. I'm also a teacher. Like, so I'm like, bye. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. No, when I was in Sacramento, I started what I called the Queer Babysitters Club. Mm-hmm. And it was a way to connect queer families who didn't have a lot of family for various reasons around. It's so hard to raise children without family, you know. Because of the free childcare, honestly, like that's a really big boundary for a lot of folks, barrier, I mean. And then there's all these like childless queers because, you know, not everyone can like afford to like make babies or do, you know, or it's just not the right time or it's not as easy. So I was like, what if we connect them? And I was like, we could, you know, like the childless queers that love kids and want to like help out and like babysit for free when it's needed. We'll help out like those parents that need like a date night or an emergency or anything like that. And
I love that.
It was really fun. And you know, I really believe in like this, it takes a village mentality, this community-based thing. And that's like the relationship. I'm like, I always joke and say, I'm like, I'm polyamorous because I wouldn't do this to one person. Can you imagine?
You get all this magic. One person's get all this magic.
I gotta spread it out, you know?
Yeah. My friend Lauren actually sent me this article about someone, I don't know where it was. It could have been, she lives in the Bay, but it was like these like 2 or 3 single moms that like bought a house together and they kind of just like tag team taking care of the kids to be, you know, because they're both single moms. And I'm like, dude, that's so dope. Just like building community in a household where, you know, it's like we both have similar needs. Yeah.
Not everything is going to look like there's a mom and a dad and 2.5 kids and a white picket fence. That's not even everyone's goal and ideal. And I think that a lot of like hetero and homonormativity makes us feel like that is what we should be striving for, or assumes that is what everyone is striving for. And if you're not, you know, then there's something wrong with you. And I really appreciate this podcast and what you guys are trying to do and trying to be like, you know what, that is not everyone's norm. You know, there's so many different ways to make a living, to love, to raise children, to work, to do, you know, all of these things. And there's nothing wrong with it being different from what people consider the norm, you know? And I'm really lucky, you know, to have a strong community, you know, well, back home, but just in general, of folks who live the lifestyle, who are polyamorous. You know, my best friend, my best friends, I consider them my side of the family. So my family, you know, there's another, you know, queer, polyamorous person, and she's my best friend, and we're like twins, and you know, she has a wife and, you know, like a life partner and a fiance, and then, you know, the life partner has his girlfriend, and like, and, you know, and everyone like sort of dates, and then there's like me who's like also there. You know,
I always when you say back home, I'm like, Sacramento or San Diego? Like, where's
Sacramento? Yeah,
okay.
I rep.
That's what you consider Sacramento home.
Okay. Yeah. I rep Sacramento hard. Yeah. Sacramento's my hometown. Is, you know, I wouldn't even. I'm a tourist when I'm in San Diego. I left when I was 17. I never looked back. I was just like, yeah. I would have no idea. I would be like, oh yeah, I grew up here. That's cute. But you know, Sacramento's hometown.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I feel like there is a pretty big poly community in Sacramento.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I am the founder. Me and my ex-husband actually invented polyamory.
Wait till she leaves Maine. That shit's gonna be popping.
Right? There's gonna be hella diverse polyamorous families. That whole group that fucking exiled her, they're all poly now. Sprinkling her fucking magic everywhere.
The reason why there's not just because I should be unapologetic and authentic about who I am, but one of the bigger reasons why I finally made that choice to like be out, is the importance of visibility. Like, yeah, there was definitely risks that were associated with that and whatnot, but at the end of the day, making it, normalizing it, making it something that was like easier. When I first came out, nobody was talking about it. Oh my gosh, in the lesbian community, people were like, absolutely not, you know.
You can't even be like, bisexual in the lesbian community.
I know. Me coming in poly, bisexual, married to a man, they were like, absolutely not. And it's so funny because at the beginning, I got a lot of that resistance, and then, you know, fast forward 10 years later, I, you know, was working for like a queer organization and was doing all the queer events and was like a really big, you know, became sort of a pillar of my community. And I would have other bisexual women or polyamorous women come to me and say, thank you for, you know, for taking that brunt of the hit from the beginning, because now people don't like think twice when I come and join these groups as much, or I don't get the same sort of thing when I'm bisexual, or I'm able to like feel more comfortable because there's more visibility. There's people that, you know. And then I also make a joke, because when people start to explore and think about being polyamory, they always hit my DMs, and I already know what it's going to be about. It's someone super random. They're like, hey, how you been? I was like, hey, what's up? They're like, so I was like, I just have like almost like a pre-done, like, here's some links that template. You need. What books do you they're like, do you have any books that you recommend?
Little did you know that's what this whole podcast is about. Melissa and I are actually auditioning. Just kidding.
Yeah. Right. I knew it. No.
We just wanted to know. We were like, give us all the details so we like know how to do this moving forward.
Yeah. And it's funny. And there are a lot of people like to do the theory, you know, read the books. There's lots of books and things that have been created. I always joke that like I didn't do the books because I made all the mistakes on my own, for real. And by the time I read the books, they're like, don't do this. I was like, yeah, do that because I did it. And that was awful. and you should do this instead. I was like, yeah, I figured that out the hard way. Like, you know,
this is true information. Yes.
Yeah, right. I'm like, well, it's too late.
I second that.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that you kind of touched on the E&M too, because that's something that I've been like exploring, and I didn't realize they were so hand in hand.
Yeah. It's just that it's, you know, I think that ethics is an interesting conversation when it comes to relationships or to anything in general. But at the end of the day, it's just about communication and awareness, self-awareness. I think it's really hard to be a good partner in general if you don't have good self-awareness. Because it's important to understand your own emotions, how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, in order to be able to communicate them, in order to be able to self-regulate, and do that emotional work that's important to be a healthy person, a healthy partner.
Mm-hmm. They also say they also call it consensual non-monogamy, right? I like that better. like that has a better ring to it.
And there's so, like I said, there's so many different, like, you know, technically, polygyny and polyandry. So the multiple husbands and the multiple wives, you know, fall under like ethical non-monogamy and polyamory and whatnot, even though they're very different. A lot of people think that it's the same thing. It's not, especially like religious, like polygamy, is different because it's not equal, you know, like the women don't have the same rights that the men do, and they're not, you know, and it's, you know, what does like ethical and consent really look like, you know? Are they consenting? Are they even given the choice, you know? And it's an interesting sort of way to like look at relationships, but I'm just so happy that people are talking about it. You know, the amount of people, like there's a community, like it blows my mind from when I first came out to now, how, you know, you see it on TV, you see it on Tinder, you see meetups and groups, and it's just like becoming more of the norm, to the point that it's I'm like excited for people to like be over it and annoyed.
It's not done in the dark anymore.
Yeah, because that's what that means.
Yeah.
You know, now when I say like, oh, I'm polyam, or, you know, I'm not monogamous, people are like, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of you, you know, before, you people before, kind of thing, instead of like, what are you talking about? Like,
I love people that are like, I could never. It's like, well, cool, I love that for you. Like,
please don't. You know, there's some people I'm like, you shouldn't.
This was not an interview or an audition. This was just a conversation. You were never a consideration. Yeah. It's kind of like, I feel like that's the new, like, you know, back when you first come out, when I first came out, I had friends like, did you ever crush on me? Like, girl, bye, like, stop. You know, I'm pretty bold. If I did, I probably
wouldn't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty bold. Like, no.
That means we would literally be attracted to every single human. Like that's not how life is.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm actually more picky. I feel like being queer, like, no.
Yeah, right. You're like, no, thank you.
I have more options, bro. Yeah. Damn,
we're having to like break down, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of, you know, just conditioning and misogyny. And so I think that just people like you just living authentically and supporting communities and organizations that are not afraid to like take the brunt of it, or at least take those first few beatings, so to speak, which sounds harsh, but
sorry, you're kind of taking it.
You know, it's I appreciate you for living authentically and sharing your story with us today. And then just I'm excited for what our community as a whole will look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if we keep these conversations going. It's exciting to just imagine that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's kind of like that saying that there's like no wrong way to make a family. You know, it's along those lines, and I am excited to, like, even personally, like, what my life is going to look like. You know, what is going to happen when I add kids to the mix. You know, there's going to be more adults, you know, and more. I have dated people who have had children, and there's always that question of like, well, what do you do with the kids? I was like, kids don't care. Kids are like, yeah, like kids are like
more people to play with.
There are more people to play with, more people to like help with carpooling and things like that, you know. And I think that having it be a part of that conversation, and I'm grateful again to be here and be a part of that conversation, and continue to sort of just normalize it and say, like, it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to mind your business, it's okay to do a little bit of both, you know. Also, like, you know, at the end of the day, just, you know, with I think even being queer and whatnot, it's, you know, if an abortion, it's like, when you think about it, it's like, let people live their lives.
Yeah.
You know, like, are they hurting anyone? If they're not hurting anyone and they're happy, like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's not your, like, it's not your place.
Don't worry about what's in their pants and who's getting in them. Like,
well, it's like, listen, if you want me to completely, if you want me to analyze your relationship, listen, I will, but that's not my place. So I'm just going to stay where I'm supposed to be. You know, I think people, you know, when it's something that's like, I do find that a lot of the stuff that I see is a lot of people that hide behind religion, you know, this is not in the Bible. This is not, it's like, it's nice to know that we kind of started with saying like, you are a woman of faith, right? That is something that is important to you, that's something you consider a part of your identity, but you don't hide behind like, my religion does not dictate how I live my life. And a lot of people do. That's where I think a lot of people have hate in their heart, because they don't try to understand something that's unfamiliar to them. And then they hide behind like, well, it's not a part of my Christianity or my Catholicism.
They rationalize it with that.
Yes. They rationalize their hate with their religion, and that sucks.
And, you know, I think that because I'm a woman of faith, it always really confuses me, because at the end of the day, I've always believed that, you know, God is love, you know, and that's where I find God in my relationships with folks, you know, and to use God to enact hate just doesn't make any sense to me. And I was like, the mental gymnastics that you have to do to get there, like, seems like a lot of work. Like, why can't treating people with kindness and respect, like, that sounds way easier and a whole lot less exhausting, you know? And I think that it's a frustrating time right now in our country. It feels like there's, you know, 10 steps back, 2 steps forward. You know, we're still fighting for trans rights. We're still fighting for the right to an abortion. We're still, you know, and it's just like why are we still fighting for these things? That it's scary for folks who are considered on the fringes of society, you know, and there's, it can get political, you know, a lot of the times. Like there's what happens when a family that has more than 2 parents, you know, have children, who gets to go on what birth certificate, you know. There's people who have to think about getting lawyers involved, have to have advance directives so that they can be protected in case something happens, you know, and there's all these things that are really important. It's not just about, you know, like dating and like having fun and always being on Tinder. There's a lot more to that, to the lifestyle. The more that you are aware of it as well. But yeah, all of these things, it's stuff that we have to think about. So it's just like, let's talk about it. Let's make it an option. Like, the amount of pain that I would have like saved myself and other people had I been exposed to polyamory earlier is like, you know, when I think about it, it blows my mind. Yeah. I just didn't know there was another option. I had no idea. There was no representation. There was no visibility. Yeah. I didn't know. You know, my parents weren't good at monogamy either. I definitely subscribe to the idea that I think I was for sure born this way. My mom had, I think, 6 divorces. My dad has had a few himself. You could have saved yourself some money, dude. Right. And it's just, you know, and I think that a lot of the judgment that I did get from my parents is a little bit based in jealousy, that I figured it out and that I'm able to do it and that I'm not hurting people, you know, and they hurt people. They did, you know, like cheating on your spouse, doing things like that. Like, it hurts people. And that does hurt. I think that's the thing is, like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I always feel like when I'm in a relationship with somebody who's the same gender, that people are rooting for us to fail, to be like, I told you so. You know what I mean? Like, I told you this wasn't going to work. And it's like, absolutely. No, like, I had a long relationship with somebody who I loved and, you know, is not a part of my life, but like, I don't look back on it and be like, what a waste of 4 years of my experiment, you know? Right. And I think one thing that I tell people, and there's this polyamorous educator and comic, they go by the name Kimchi Cuddles. They're pretty great. I recommend their stuff, their book. But one thing that she talks about that I always say is, a successful relationship doesn't mean you died together. Like if you didn't, like, a lot of people think that like a successful relationship is like, well, you were together until you died, you know, and that's not it. There's successful relationships that last 8 months or 5 years or 15 years. Just because something ended doesn't mean it wasn't successful. Yeah. You know, it doesn't have to be forever to be successful. And I have had beautiful, wonderful, successful relationships that lasted 3 months and some that lasted 2 or 3 years. I tend to be I tend to be on the longer term. Like my relationships usually, you know, last anywhere from 1 to 2 years, and or longer. I have realized, however, that relationships get shorter the more you are aware of what BS you are not willing to put up with. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, no, I'm not doing this again. I already know it that I don't like this one. I think we're done.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it didn't take me 8 months to figure out that it wasn't a good match this time. It only took me 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
though, I think
success.
that's a beautiful message, you know, that it doesn't mean, I just came out about 2 years ago from a 14-year relationship, and we're close friends still. And I feel like that was a very successful relationship. So I think that there is a stigma around that because something ended, a partnership ended, or at least the way your relationship isn't the same as it was before, that it wasn't successful. So I like that.
Well, I think even how it ends, sometimes if it does end bad, but people like take some time process and they end up reconnecting to be friends, that doesn't mean the last however long before that it just was a weird place and it ended bad, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. Well, man, I don't have any more questions. I feel like you've really like covered. I feel like even some of the questions it snowballed into, so it's perfect. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you all. I really appreciated it. I think that it's definitely one of those topics that's super nuanced just because there's just so many different ways to do it. But I appreciate you guys being open-minded and curious, and, you know, it's exciting. It's exciting to talk about it. It's exciting to be able to share it and to continue to normalize. Like, I love a little differently than some people, and like,
yeah,
I'm into it.
And I love that. And you know what? It's all coming from a place of love, which is what we need more of in this world. I think now more than, listen, I struggle to love some people that but I'm trying, and it's really hard, but I'm trying my hardest, I will say. If you're comfortable, you might turn into somebody's poly coach, like you said, but if you're comfortable, if you want to plug your stuff, I know that I saw your social media and you're very active on there. And I think people would love to, you know, but we have some people who watch YouTube, mostly like Melissa's mom, but a lot of people listen on Spotify. She's the best. So yeah. So if you're open to plugging your stuff, we would love that.
Yeah, definitely. Add in my Instagram. Like I said, I'm very open about it. There's things that I'm really into, you know, sort of body neutrality. And I have these 2 tattoos that I love. This one says Sinvergüenza, which is my way of being like, hey mom, you know that thing you told me you hated about me? Well, it's kind of what I love about me. Yeah. I have no shame. I'm shameless. I'm taking it back. And then I have this, like, one of my first tattoos was this polyamory symbol that I have literally on my wrist, you know, like wearing my heart on my sleeve. And I like to live it that way. And like I said, my goal is to just normalize it and have visibility be a thing so that other people can say, hey, I can do that too. There's options, you know. When I didn't grow up with like poly or queer women in my life that I could look up to. I was told to like not to hide these things, you know, that's what I was expected to do. So to be able to be open is, I don't know, I feel like I'm healing like the generational trauma a little bit at a time. So yeah, so I'm grateful for this platform and other platforms to be able to continue to do that work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's fun. Yeah. Hit me up.
So what's your Instagram?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So my Instagram is at laugh, then the letter N, and then Latina. So laugh and Latina.
Cool. And people, if they wanted to follow your, like, what you're going to be doing with stand-up and stuff, that's the Instagram that they
follow? My Instagram is the best way to get information about what I'm up to and what I'm doing. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. It's been fun.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Yeah, I know that you're not the poster child for the polyamorous lifestyle, but thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for being our poster child.
I appreciate that. I'll be a poster child. Thank you all so much. This was fun. You guys take care. It was lovely talking to you all.
Beautiful mess. Yes.